Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our welcome keynote at Mapic India. And to deliver this eagerly looked forward to address is a person who has been there, done that. He has led an advertising agency, a stockbroking firm, and set up India's largest luxury fashion retail company. In 2007, he founded Reliance Brands Limited as its first employee, and 14 years and 56 international partnerships later, the company has more than 1,600 points of sale across India, along with a global footprint that encompasses 16 countries of the iconic British toy retailer, Hamleys. His Star Trek to Indian retail has seen him repeatedly feature on all the fashion indices and lists like the BOF 500, and he is considered one of the founding architects of the Indian luxury retail landscape. An avid trekker with a special passion for Himalayan treks and a lover of contemporary art and art installations, he's a person who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the keynote welcome, please put your hands together for Chairman, Mapic India, and Managing Director, Reliance Brands Limited, Mr. Darshan Mehta.
Guys, this is working? Okay. Good morning. I guess the urge didn't work, so possibly maybe I'll move out closer to the to the back benches. But anyway, good morning everyone, and nice to be here. I'm on unfamiliar territories. I'm not normally used to doing this, but I think the attraction of getting back into physical interface and physical meetings, and as Sangeeta pointed out, also to a bit of a distracted audience because we are all so happy to be, I guess, after a long time physically meeting each other and talking to each other. So good to be here. In the interest of time, I know we started late, and I know I have a lot of colleagues who have other commitments, so, and some of them have come from other cities. So in the interest of time, and also for Anuj's session, which he's going to moderate the next session, I am going to make my so-called keynote address a bit short and swift. What I have done is, I thought I'll leave 7, 8 nuggets of thoughts and some of my own introspection on where this industry has been going. I wear 2 hats, as some of you may know. I run a brands company, Reliance Brands. I now also run an asset management company in real estate. So I run a company called BKC Mall Management Company. We set up our first retail center called Geo World Drive just a while ago. At times these two hats conflict because I'm a landlord at one level, or a mall owner or mall manager at one level, and of course a tenant as a brand participant at the other end. Just for the record, we have 94 units at the Geo World Drive, and only 22 of them are Reliance brands. Most people think the whole mall is RBL, which is not the case. But anyway, wearing both these hats, there are some common pivots that I have put together. So I guess this is how this works. So my narrative is based on 8 pivots, and basically it's putting individuals at the core and the center of the big transformation that is happening just now. Someone very aptly commented to me the other day that we are living in an era of the great resignation. Everyone's resigning. Everyone wants to be a startup. I feel a bit left out, a bit of a dinosaur that I am here. I also see some of my colleagues here. But this is an era that I'm sure we'll all look back this period of time where everyone is in a startup mode. There are unicorns being born every day. There are some crazy amounts of money chasing some crazy amounts of value, all of that, etc. The center of all of this is the individual, whether it's a leader, whether it's a consumer, whether it's an employee. So a few thoughts here. Hopefully they will add value as we walk out of this hall or the center today or tomorrow, as the case may be. Clearly, this is a time to redefine the leader. There were times not so far back where shareholders, boards, companies were hiring leaders to deliver exceptional top-line value and exceptional bottom-line value. That's called an aggressive leader. I truly believe that's soon getting redefined. The leader today sits in a unique place at what I call a glass door between a transforming consumer, a changing retail landscape, and of course a company also that is recalibrating to keep in pace with both the retail landscape change and the consumer change. And as a result, we must all look for leaders who are more individual empathetic, who bring multiple different skills. How do they lead and what do they lead will impact many, many things. Messaging, workforce trust, supply chain transparency, product distinction, brand communications. And of course, we must look for people who bring these unique combination of commitment towards people and product. So in essence, the purpose of this slide is simple: reimagine the leader. Okay, it's not always a person who is bringing aggressive growth, top line and bottom line in the short term, but someone who is empathetic all around. Many of us are leaders. We need to recraft ourselves, reimagine what we bring to the table. The phrase that very often we use at RBL is, what got us here won't take us there, and that's ever so more true. The second nugget of thought that I want to lead is, and that embraces, I guess, many of the people in this forum and in this room, is the evolving language of retail. There are many, many new lexicons and new ideas coming on to the concept of retail. Many of us hear of metaverse. My colleague here spoke about crypto as you know, not too far back, crypto was seen as some mumbo jumbo, something that was not just a flash in the pan. It will go away like the dot-coms, you know, around the turn of the century went away. No longer. I think it's acquiring more legitimacy by the day and the night. Just from a retail point of view, that's what concerns us, and I see Venu, I see Neil, Sangeeta, many of the colleagues here who are well entrenched into this business. Increasingly, I find, and as I grow in age and hence the need to connect with younger consumers more and more, the need of people to express themselves in alternate universes, in alternate forums with alternate avatars. So everything that we hear from virtual fashion to NFTs to gaming, these are all becoming very, very real. And if our language of retail does not embrace this new, very, very fast coming up reality, I think many of us will fossilize very, very quickly. This is not something that is happening in the distant future. This is happening here and now. Again, this is not necessarily the forum, and I don't want to trespass too much on the next forum's time. But think about this as not some distant reality happening in other parts of the world. Given the fact that we have the world's youngest population, given the fact what's happening all around us, that's a big reality. Inclusivity. It's not just about gender diversity, it's about gender freeness. Increasingly, fashion must embrace that. It's no longer about creating things for the disabled, it's working with the disabled. So it's not just about putting a zip where, you know, a disabled person could wear the garment easily. It's about how do you work with them. So many of these thoughts are actually increasingly engaging young consumers, and in reverse, brands must appeal to that. I don't want to add more forum to climate change as a thought process. Again, this is not something that's happening on the distant shores. We must be mindful about both the individual and the planet and the survival of that. So I can go on, but there's a whole evolving language of retail as a second thought I want to leave many of you with in terms of, you know, how do we bring that about. The consumer is the new brand. And whether it is our Facebook personas, whether it is our personas on our DPs of the WhatsApp that we use, you know, possibly, you know, 50, 100 times during the day as we lift our phones, many of the things are placing the consumer right at the center. So if you talk to that customer as an individual and work backwards on how the brand fits his or her life, you know, something unique happens when a sale gets transacted. Something about that individual's personality, something about that person's belief falls in sync with your brand, and that's how a sale happens. So Neil runs a beautiful brand, Adidas, one of our, in fact we partner in some part. When a consumer goes out and buys an Adi shoe, there is a sync that happens, and if we learn to put the consumer right at the center and understand that and teach our salespeople to approach it that way rather than pushing the product first and the consumer second, it's a big change. So increasing the need for introducing product and logo authenticators. People are going to ask for this. Retail psychologists, we have already started beginning to experiment with that, and the next thought is actually having people who are recycling specialists, people who can explain what actually circularity of fashion and recycling is all about. And 2 of my stores, we are beginning to experiment with that. Many of you, I'm sure, work with fashion stylists and beauty and skin experts. Beauty is a big part of the growth of the beauty category. Unlike fashion, beauty is first generation in India. We didn't grow up where our mums wear lipsticks first thing in the morning, so it's a first generation teaching itself. Unlike fashion, some of it was imbibed from the generation ahead. So put the customer as a center and treat the customer as a brand. That's the third thought. The age of what I call relatable storytelling. So the very high level of aspirations increasingly is not working. Make the storytelling simpler, make the storytelling relatable. I don't see, of course, I am the age that I am, I don't see too many millennials here. Any of you followed Adele's new album? So Adele, after I think 6 years, launched an album called 30. She's now become the patron saint of heartbreak because she went out and openly spoke about her divorce and spoke about her challenges with her weight gains and weight losses and all of that. And these are relatable stories. So make your storytelling, okay, less aspirational. I mean, I don't think young consumers relate to Madonna wearing a conical bra on a tour, but it's much more about relatable stories and something that you can, relate to. So instead of I want this, move the narrative and the story to I want this because it's Brooks Brothers is a 200-year-old family history, lives in this trunk or lives in the shirt, or because Virgil and sad demise, but I think Virgil did more for humanizing and pushing people and saying, if I could do that, if I could be in the stage that I was with the kind of beginnings that I came with, I think any of else could do it. Because it feeds 10 million children in Africa, because my daughter will value this, her inheritance, make it closer and more relatable. So that's a big thought here, the age of what I call relatable storytelling as my pivot number 4. This is an idea that I'm in love with. So in an earlier trip to London City, there was a sudden shower. I ran into a closed shelter. There was a closed market there. And because the shower was quite sudden, I was left without umbrella. I walked straight into a store which was selling second-hand watches. And to kill time, there was a nice gentleman there, smiled at me, so I sat down and said, I am looking for something watches. Honestly, I was killing time. And he very nicely, very gently, true Englishman, took out 2 watches and said, so I looked at them and saying, so these are second-hand, pre-certified. And I still remember the shock on his face, and he looked and said, my son, they are pre-loved, they are not second-hand. And I first came across that phrase of pre-loved watches. And since then, this whole concept of second-hand, how did second-hand start? Japan started with a big second-hand market, and people were just looking at second-hand as a way of getting brands at a cheaper price. Could I get a Birkin? Could I get a Vuitton? Could I get a Dior bag at a cheaper price? That's how it started. Moved into circularity and saying, oh, sustainability, we should do more. Then moved into nostalgia. I think now it is going to move into what I call aesthete, which is all the aesthetes will want to say, this is what the Patola sari or the Kanjivaram sari that my mother wore, and this was a trending fashion at that particular point of time. I think the business of pre-loved fashion, as it is for pre-loved watches, I know Mr. Sabu Ethos watches, many of you would know, I think both father and son are doing a fantastic job in launching pre-loved watches in this country, doing the whole certification, bring the watches back into where they belong. In fact, most parts of the world, pre-loved watches go at a much higher price than brand new watches. And I think that's an idea which has come in terms of time. Maybe Neil, since you're here, think about it, and if you can bring it, all the authentication, bring all the processes back, okay, I think something unique can happen here. So it's not just about continuity, conservation, good business, as I said. It creates employment opportunities, of course, and uses skill in everything, and is also about the right pricing and the right packaging, how you sell that story, and it needs a sharp curation as branding. And of course, the shop floor section must not be old and musty. Maybe you can use the same fragrance that was prevalent, others, that was prevalent 30, 40 years ago when you are selling the product which is relating to a different period of time. But it's another thought in terms of looking at pre-loved fashion. Going back to my thought of the great resignation. The mind created the technology, and the technology made the mind subservient to just a doer, correct? And increasingly, as I talk to young people, my son himself, he left a very flourishing job in San Francisco, came here, I thought for COVID, taking a break, and next I know, he's working with a startup in Bangalore. So he's moved from SF to Bangalore in the last 3 months. And I was with him, and his wife followed similar footsteps. Both left a fabulous job in San Francisco, hugely paying job, multi-billion-dollar market cap companies. One of his wife's a lawyer who works in a private equity fund, and my son's working with a startup. What propelled him to drive that? And somewhere the thought process of saying that increasingly as tech takes over our businesses, they were becoming cogs in that big tech wheel. And hence, we need to be mindful of creating that balance between what I call the human touch in the tech at every level. If not, we are going to lose consumers at one end, we are going to lose employees at the other end, and a lot of our workforce that we have curated for a long period of time. So combine top tech interventions without losing the human touch, reinvigorate the retail employee with app engagement and reselling skills, and of course, don't forget that the individual created the tech. It is a time to really, really rebalance, and again, I won't belabor this thought. As I said, I just want to touch upon and leave these thoughts with you in terms of what should be done. Pivot 7. I think the juggernaut of sale has to stop. I was just mentioning to Anuj as I was sitting here, at least in my cohort of brands, I have done my bits. So people used to go on sale in early January. Then someone said, no, December month, let's kind of prepone and just bring that first 5-day sale in. So got tempted, and it started 25th December. Then it started 15th December, and before we knew, before winter was even setting in the country, we are discounting our winter merchandise. We have collectively moved our brands, and I can stand on this podium and say 26th January is when our brands will go on sale. Okay, this year. Last year we went on sale in the month of, because COVID-2 happened, all our spring summer merchandise was still unsold. We went on sale only on 12th of August, and we went on sale only for 3 weekends. So in summary, the constant and repetitive sales and the dilution of the brand power has to stop. Somewhere this juggernaut needs to be stopped, and we are not waiting for others. Okay, each one of us must introspect, look within ourselves and stop that. After COVID-1, again same thing happened. Spring summer 20 was lost, and since COVID-1 happened, all our merchandise was intact. Again, we postponed the sales season to end August. And we actually said for the first time, we won't use the word discount or sale. We said, let's create desire. So we started a series of conversations. It's now a registered property by us called Luxury Shopping Festival. We're basically saying, let's celebrate. And if you remember, post-COVID-1, people came out. We didn't know we'll go through a second wave, all of that, etc. And last year, same time, October, November, December, there was a lot of celebratory thought process in the air. We said, the job of brands and job of retail is to create desire. Okay. So let's move to newer narratives, newer dialogues, newer ways of engaging with the customer. Of course, there's a necessary, we have cut sizes and we have, colors that didn't sell and shelves that need to go empty because the new season merchandise come to. It's a reality of the fashion business. But somewhere we need to create this balance. So resolve the growing conflict between value and price, as we all know, and uphold brand identity and DNA without a sale tag. So rethink of the sale juggernaut. And the last bit, and again, I won't overstay my welcome or time here, but more than ever, especially for retail centers, this is a time to stay relevant. Turn the mall into urban escapes. We see on ourselves a responsibility. I joke very often with my international partners and tell them that in India, a mall is not a mall, it's an air-conditioned beach and a park. You go to a place where you first find parking, then you find air conditioning, okay? And no one goes to parks and beaches, at least not the relevant audience that we are talking to, etc. So how do you convert retail centers into true urban escapes? Blend nostalgia with newness. In fact, as you would have noticed, the backdrop is I think the ultimate holy grail of retail in the world, which is an Apple store. And what they keep on doing and redefining, at the GeoWorld Drive, we are opening the first Apple store of the country. Of course, they take a long period of time, close to a year, to build that store. It's under construction. When it opens, I think it will be an absolute new urban oasis for the city and for especially young people in the city. Bring relevance to exciting F&B play zones for kids. We have created something called the Green Co-op. It's a true farmers market. We are creating narratives. We have created concepts called special play areas under the brand Hamleys. We brought back books and coffees and conversations. So we have done our bit and will continue to do that. Introduce a me time lounge in the mall. I do think many of us flirt with this concept of what's the me time, okay, between our duties at work and duties at home. Okay, and we all seek that third escape, and can we create spaces like that? Add art and sculpture for the aesthetes, as we have done. Books and browsing areas I spoke about. So a quick pack into, I can go on, as I was musing and thinking about this conversation today, there were thoughts around redefining red carpet dressing, even retail rewards and retail awards, how to create new retail design. In fact, after the success of the Green Co-op, I think the time to create a newer version of flea markets in a more sophisticated and stylized way, where you could actually throw in art and eyewear, shoes and furniture and food, and all do it in a great, unique cultural mix. Yes. I think these are all ideas whose time has come now, because the consumer is ready, and I think India is set overall. Some gentleman who is researching stocks came and said hello to me just now. For whatever it is worth, I truly believe that we are facing possibly the most optimistic 5 years time from a consumerism point of view, provided we understand that customer and provided we all remember that what brought us here won't take us there. It's not just yet another big box with some nice screens, a bit of music playing, and lots and lots and lots of salesmen on the floor, very often intimidating the lone shopper that happens on a Wednesday afternoon or thereabouts. We need to rethink that. It's both an opportunity and a challenge. It's a huge, exciting opportunity because the rules of the game can be completely rewritten, some of which I have touched upon. So hopefully this added value and give you some food for thought, as these kind of forums should do. Thank you so much for your patience.